everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to explore Stoicism,
Okay.
a philosophy that's been around for centuries and has even influenced figures like Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
So imagine you're Zeno of Cyprus back in 300 BC.
Okay.
You're this wealthy trader sailing the seas with a ship just full of treasures,
Yeah.
and then bam, shipwreck.
Oh no.
You lose everything in an instant. How would you even cope with that?
Well, that's a really great question to start with
Yeah.
because Zeno's response to that very situation actually laid the whole foundation for Stoicism.
Hmm.
And it's actually a pretty common misconception
Okay.
that Stoicism is about just suppressing emotions,
Right.
But it's really more of a way of life, like a worldview
Okay.
that's centered on accepting what we can't control
Okay.
and focusing on what we can, our reactions, our judgments, our mindsets.
So it's more about mastering like our inner world
Yes.
rather than trying to control all the external chaos.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, Zeno, for instance, he didn't just fall into despair after his shipwreck.
Right.
He actually used it as an opportunity to really dedicate himself to philosophy and develop the principles of Stoicism.
Yeah.
And his story it's just a really powerful example of how Stoicism isn't about being emotionless, but about finding resilience
Yeah.
and purpose, even when you're facing adversity.
That's a really compelling point. I'd never thought about it in terms of like finding opportunity in the chaos.
Right.
And it seems, I don't know, incredibly relevant for today, like with all the pressures and anxieties of modern life.
Absolutely. Yeah, Stoicism, it provides this framework for navigating the ups and downs that, we all experience.
Right.
Think about the constant barrage of advertising and social media messages
Yeah.
telling us what we should have, how we should look, what we should buy. Stoicism, it helps us kind of filter out all that noise
Right.
and recognize that true happiness, it doesn't come from that kind of external validation.
Okay.
It comes from mastering our inner world.
That's interesting. It's almost like a mental filter to help us like focus on what truly matters.
Yeah.
So how does this actually play out in everyday life?
Right.
Like what are the core principles that really guide Stoics?
So one of the most fundamental principles is this, it's called the dichotomy of control.
Okay.
And it's recognizing the difference between what's within our sphere of influence and what's not.
Got it.
So, for example, let's say you pour your heart into creating a YouTube video, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But it doesn't get the views that you hoped for.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that feeling of disappointment.
Yeah.
When that algorithm doesn't cooperate.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the Stoic approach in that situation would be to detach your sense of self-worth from the number of views.
Okay.
Which are ultimately outside your control.
Right.
Instead, you focus on what you can control, the effort that you put in,
Okay.
the quality of your work. Now, this doesn't mean that you become passive,
Right.
but rather you understand where your energy is best directed.
So it's more about like focusing on the process,
Yeah.
not just the outcome.
Exactly.
I like that. Now, our sources mention 4 key virtues of Stoicism: wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice.
Right.
Can we break those down a bit?
Of course, yeah. Each virtue offers a unique perspective on how to live a more fulfilling life.
Okay.
Wisdom, for example, is about understanding this dichotomy of control
Okay.
and choosing our responses wisely. As Viktor Frankl so eloquently put it, he said, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response.
That's a powerful quote.
Yeah.
So even in like the midst of chaos, we still have the power to choose how we react. Wow. Okay. How about courage? What does that look like in the Stoic framework?
Well, courage in Stoicism is about facing challenges and difficult situations with resilience and perseverance.
Okay.
It's more than just physical bravery.
Right.
It's the inner strength to persist and resist, even when things get tough.
So wisdom helps us choose our battles, and courage helps us fight them.
That's a good way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What about temperance?
Well, temperance emphasizes moderation,
Okay.
balance, and self-control. It's about finding contentment with enough.
Okay.
Which is a concept that directly challenges, our kind of consumerist culture.
Yeah.
While figures like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk
Right.
are competing for wealth accumulation,
Right.
Stoicism encourages a different kind of wealth, inner richness,
Okay.
and contentment with what we have.
It's almost like a minimalist approach to life, like
Right.
focusing on what truly matters rather than getting caught up in the endless cycle of wanting more.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Finally, we have justice.
Right.
What's that about?
So justice in the Stoic sense
Yeah.
is about recognizing our interconnectedness
Okay.
and acting for the benefit of others.
Mm.
It's about fairness, integrity,
Mm-hmm.
and contributing to the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Nelson Mandela's life exemplifies this virtue beautifully.
Okay. Yeah.
Even after, enduring years of imprisonment,
Oh.
he chose forgiveness and reconciliation over revenge
Yeah.
and worked to build a better future for his country.
His story is incredibly inspiring. Now, we've talked about these core principles,
Right.
the dichotomy of control, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice.
Yeah.
But how do the Stoics actually put these ideas into practice in their daily lives?
Well, they had some interesting practices. One that might surprise you is it's called voluntary discomfort.
Okay, voluntary discomfort.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
What exactly does that involve?
It's intentionally experiencing discomfort
Okay.
to cultivate gratitude and build mental resilience.
Mm.
So imagine choosing to sleep on the floor instead of your comfy bed,
Oh,
taking cold showers, or even eating only simple meals for a period of time.
I'm not sure I'm ready to. I'm not sure I'm ready to swap my morning coffee for a cold shower just yet.
Right?
But I am curious.
Yeah.
Why would they intentionally put themselves through those kind of hardships?
So by facing these like controlled discomforts,
Okay.
Stoics aim to strengthen their minds
Right.
and appreciate the things that they might otherwise take for granted.
Right.
It was a way to prepare for life's inevitable challenges,
Uh-huh.
knowing that they had the inner strength to face them.
That's a fascinating concept. It's like mental training for life's ups and downs.
Exactly.
It seems like a direct link to those virtues that we were just discussing.
Right.
Like facing discomfort with courage, understanding the temporary nature of comfort with wisdom.
Yeah.
But how does this ancient philosophy help us navigate the unique challenges of the modern world?
So one area where Stoicism really shines is in dealing with the constant barrage of advertising and consumerism.
Okay.
We're just bombarded with messages
Right.
that try to link our happiness to material possessions,
Mm-hmm.
which can create these feelings of dissatisfaction
Yeah.
and inadequacy.
Right.
Stoicism offers an alternative, finding contentment in what we have and focusing on what truly matters.
So it's like having a shield against the consumerist pressure
Yes.
to help us stay grounded and focused on, on our values. That's incredibly relevant today.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's not just a philosophical concept either.
Yeah.
Stoic principles are actually at the heart of some modern therapeutic approaches,
Oh, wow.
like rational emotive behavioral therapy, or REBT,
Okay.
and logotherapy.
Really? So ancient philosophy is influencing modern psychology.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It is.
Could you tell me more about how that connection works?
Absolutely. So REBT, for instance,
Okay.
it helps individuals identify and challenge irrational thoughts that lead to negative emotions and behaviors.
Okay.
It's about applying logic and reason to examine those beliefs and replace them with healthier ones,
Okay.
much like the Stoic focus on controlling our reactions.
So it's like putting the dichotomy of control into action,
Yes.
recognizing we can't control certain events, but we can control how we think about them.
Exactly.
What about logotherapy?
Logotherapy focuses on finding meaning in life,
Okay.
even in the face of suffering, which aligns with the Stoic emphasis on finding purpose and virtue, even in difficult circumstances.
Uh-huh.
Both approaches encourage us to take responsibility for our thoughts and actions, regardless of our circumstances.
It's amazing how these ideas from ancient philosophy are still so relevant and applicable today.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
It seems like Stoicism offers this powerful toolkit for personal growth and resilience.
It does.
But it's not just about individual well-being, is it?
No.
We talked earlier about the virtue of justice. How
Yeah.
does Stoicism view our our responsibilities to others.
So Stoics believed in this concept of cosmopolitanism,
Okay.
the idea that we are all interconnected,
Right.
part of a larger cosmic order.
Mm.
And this emphasized our shared humanity and the importance of acting for the benefit of all,
Okay.
which directly ties into that virtue of justice.
So it's not just about self-improvement,
No.
but about contributing to a better world.
Precisely.
Right.
Yeah. Stoicism encourages us to be active participants in society, to work towards justice, fairness,
Okay.
and the well-being of others. It's about understanding that our actions have ripple effects
Right.
and striving to make a positive impact.
It's a philosophy of both personal and social responsibility, which is pretty remarkable. This
Right.
has been a really insightful exploration of Stoicism so far.
I agree.
And I'm already starting to see how these ancient principles can be, transformative in our modern lives.
Yeah, I think so too.
But before we go any further,
Okay.
let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. We'll be back shortly to continue our deep dive into Stoicism and explore how we can apply these timeless principles to create a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Welcome back. We've been unpacking Stoicism,
Yeah.
this ancient philosophy that's
Wow.
all about navigating life's ups and downs with grace
Yes.
and finding that strength within.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that's really struck me is this concept of living with less.
Mm.
It's not about deprivation,
Right.
but about focusing on what truly matters.
Yeah. That's a key insight. It challenges the consumerist mindset
Right.
that constantly tells us we need more to be happy.
Right.
Stoicism reminds us that true happiness isn't about, it isn't about the number of possessions we accumulate,
Okay.
but about finding contentment
Yeah.
and inner peace.
It's about decluttering our lives.
Yes.
Not just physically,
Right.
but mentally and emotionally as well.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be liberating,
Yeah.
but also maybe a bit daunting for some people.
Right.
Do you have any practical tips for incorporating this idea of
Yeah.
living with less into our daily lives?
So one practice that can be really helpful is to periodically ask yourself,
Okay.
if I could only keep the possessions that truly matter, what would they be and why?
And this helps you examine what you truly value
Okay.
and what you might be holding on to out of habit or societal pressure.
That's a great question to ask. It forces you to confront your attachments.
Yes.
And prioritize what's truly important. And living with less, it isn't just limited to physical possessions, is it?
Oh, no.
It seems like it also applies to managing our desires and expectations.
Absolutely. Remember the dichotomy of control we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
We can't control external events,
Right.
but we can control our reactions to them.
Yeah.
And this applies to our desires as well.
Okay.
So when we attach our happiness to things outside our control,
Uh-huh.
like getting a promotion or a certain number of likes on social media,
Right.
we're setting ourselves up for potential disappointment.
Yeah.
Stoicism, it encourages us to shift our focus to what we can control: our effort,
Right.
our intention,
Uh-huh.
our attitude.
So it's about finding contentment in the journey.
Yes.
Not just the destination.
Exactly. It's about embracing the present moment,
Okay.
appreciating what we have, and focusing on what we can influence.
You're right.
Now, this doesn't mean that we become passive
Right.
or give up on our goals,
Okay.
but it does mean we detach our sense of self-worth from outcomes
Right.
that are ultimately beyond our grasp.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm starting to see how this can apply to so many different aspects of life.
Right.
And it seems particularly relevant in today's world
Yeah.
where we're constantly bombarded with information and external stimuli.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there any stoic wisdom that can help us
Yes.
help us navigate this chaos of modern life
Yeah.
and find a sense of peace amidst all the noise?
So one of the most valuable Stoic practices for finding peace
Okay.
in a chaotic world is mindfulness.
Okay.
It's about paying attention to the present moment without judgment, observing our thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them. And this helps us create space between stimulus and response,
Right.
allowing us to choose how we react rather than simply reacting impulsively.
It's like hitting the pause button
Yes,
before we go into autopilot mode.
exactly.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
But how do we actually cultivate mindfulness
Right.
in our daily lives? It seems like a pretty abstract concept.
Well, there are actually many different ways to practice mindfulness.
Okay.
Meditation is a powerful tool,
Mm-hmm.
but even simple things um, like taking a few deep breaths before responding to a stressful email,
Right.
or consciously savoring a meal
Okay.
can help us become more present and aware.
So it's about bringing awareness to those like everyday moments that we often like rush through
Yes,
without really experiencing them fully.
exactly. And that awareness can be it can be truly transformative. It helps us break free from negative thought patterns.
Yeah.
Cultivate gratitude and find moments of peace,
Mm-hmm.
even amidst the busyness of life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we move on,
Yeah.
I want to touch on something we mentioned earlier,
Okay.
The Stoic idea of happiness.
Right.
You know, I think there's often this misconception that
Sure.
Stoicism is about suppressing emotions
Right.
or achieving some kind of blissful state.
Okay.
But from what we've discussed so far,
Yeah.
it seems like it's a lot more nuanced than that.
That's a great point. I think a lot of people do have that preconceived notion about Stoicism, so
Yeah.
it would be really helpful to clarify what it actually means to find happiness
Right.
from a Stoic perspective.
You're absolutely right. Stoicism, it doesn't view happiness as a static state of bliss,
Okay.
nor is it about denying or suppressing emotions.
Right. Yeah.
Instead, it's about cultivating a state of inner peace and tranquility. What they call eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia.
Yeah,
It sounds almost like a superpower.
yeah. You could say that it's about flourishing,
Okay.
living in accordance with nature and virtue.
Okay.
So Stoics believe that true happiness stems from aligning our thoughts and actions
Mm-hmm.
with reason and virtue. It's not about external circumstances,
Right.
but about our internal state.
So even when facing difficult times,
Yeah,
a Stoic can still experience like a sense of fulfillment.
precisely. It's about finding meaning and purpose,
Okay.
even in the midst of adversity.
Okay.
Think back to Zeno's shipwreck.
Right.
He lost all of his material possessions.
Yeah.
But he didn't lose his character,
Okay.
his values, or his ability to choose his response.
Wow.
In fact, that experience led him to develop Stoicism,
Yeah.
which brought meaning and purpose to his life.
That's a powerful reminder
Right.
that even in the face of loss, we can still find a path forward.
Yeah.
So how do we cultivate this eudaimonia, this Stoic sense of happiness?
Yeah.
What are the practical steps
Yeah.
we can take to bring this philosophy into our lives?
Well, it starts with understanding
Okay.
that true happiness, it isn't dependent on
Uh-huh.
it isn't dependent on external factors like wealth, fame, or even good health.
Right.
These things they're fleeting
Yeah.
and ultimately outside our control.
Right.
Stoicism encourages us to focus on what we can control:
Okay.
our thoughts, our judgments, our actions.
It's about cultivating that internal locus of control we discussed earlier.
You got it. And it's about living in alignment with virtue.
Uh-huh.
Those 4 pillars we explored:
Hmm.
wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice.
Yeah.
And by embodying these virtues,
Okay.
we cultivate a sense of inner peace
Mm-hmm.
and fulfillment that isn't swayed by the inevitable ups and downs of life.
It sounds like a lifelong practice,
It is.
a journey of self-discovery and growth.
Yeah, it is. And like any journey,
Uh-huh.
it has its challenges.
Right.
One of the key obstacles is the way our minds are often wired to focus on the negative.
Okay.
We tend to dwell on what's wrong, what we lack, what we fear.
Right.
Stoics, they call this negative visualization.
So instead of visualizing success,
Right.
we're visualizing failure.
Yeah.
That seems counterintuitive.
It might sound that way. But Stoics, they use negative visualization as a tool
Okay.
to prepare for potential setbacks, not to make themselves miserable
Okay.
by mentally rehearsing for for difficult situations.
Uh-huh.
They could better manage their emotions and reactions
Yeah.
when those challenges actually arose.
That's interesting. It's like a mental vaccine against negativity.
Yeah.
By anticipating potential hardships,
Right.
we can diminish their power over us.
Exactly.
But how do we use negative visualization
Right.
without spiraling into pessimism?
Okay.
Could you give me an example?
Sure. Yeah. Let's say you're about to give an important presentation.
Okay.
So instead of only visualizing everything going perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
you could also visualize potential challenges.
Right.
Maybe some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Or tough questions from the audience.
Right.
And by mentally preparing for these possibilities,
Okay.
you won't be as thrown off if they actually happen.
That makes sense. It's about being mentally prepared
Right.
for the unexpected.
Yes.
So Stoicism isn't about becoming some kind of pessimist. It's
No.
about being realistic and resilient.
Exactly. And it's important to remember
And-
that Stoicism also it emphasizes gratitude
Okay.
and appreciating the present moment.
Right.
It's about finding joy in the simple things,
Hmm.
even amidst difficulty.
This reminds me of the Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
By intentionally experiencing hardship,
Right.
they learn to appreciate the good times even more.
Yes.
It seems like all of these practices are interconnected.
They are. It's all about shifting our perspective, recognizing that even in challenging times,
Yeah.
there's always something to be grateful for.
Right.
And by cultivating this sense of gratitude,
Uh-huh.
we can actually increase our overall sense of well-being.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation about Stoicism.
I agree.
I'm starting to see how it can be a powerful tool for personal growth and resilience.
Right.
But it's not just about individual well-being, is it?
Oh.
We talked earlier about the virtue of justice.
Yes.
How does Stoicism view our responsibilities to others
Okay.
and our role in society as a whole?
So Stoics, they believe that we are all interconnected,
Uh-huh.
part of a larger cosmic order.
Okay.
And this idea of cosmopolitanism, as they called it,
Okay.
it emphasized our shared humanity
Right.
and the importance of acting for the benefit of all. Remember, justice was one of their core virtues.
So it's not just about self-improvement,
No.
but about contributing to a better world as well.
Absolutely. Stoicism encourages us to be active participants in society,
Okay.
to work towards justice,
Uh-huh.
fairness,
Yeah.
and the well-being of others.
Right.
It's about recognizing that our actions have ripple effects
Right.
and striving to make a positive impact.
It's like a philosophy of both personal and social responsibility,
Yeah,
which is pretty remarkable.
it is.
It seems like Stoicism offers this holistic approach to living a meaningful and fulfilling life.
That's a great way to put it. Stoicism, it encourages us to develop our character,
Okay.
cultivate inner peace,
Mm.
and contribute to the common good. It's a framework
Right.
for navigating life's complexities with grace and purpose.
I'm really struck by how relevant
Mhm.
and even transformative these ancient principles can be in today's world.
Absolutely.
We live in a society that often prioritizes
Right.
material success
Yeah.
and external validation above all else.
Yeah.
Stoicism offers this powerful alternative,
Yes.
a path to inner peace
Yeah.
and genuine happiness,
Right.
regardless of our circumstances.
And what's truly remarkable is that
Yeah.
Stoicism isn't just a set of abstract ideas.
Right.
It's a practical philosophy that we can apply to our daily lives.
Okay.
Whether it's whether it's dealing with stress at work,
Right.
navigating difficult relationships,
Uh-huh.
or simply finding moments of peace
Right.
amidst the chaos.
It's like a toolkit for living a better life.
Exactly. And it's a toolkit that's available to everyone.
Right.
You don't need to be a philosopher or a scholar to benefit from Stoic wisdom.
Right.
It's about simple, timeless principles
Yeah.
that can help us all live with more intention, resilience, and joy.
This deep dive into Stoicism has been so insightful.
I agree. It's been a really good discussion.
I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this, rich and complex philosophy.
Right.
But before Before we wrap up this part of our exploration,
Okay.
I'd like to bring up one more concept that really resonated with me
Yeah.
from our source material.
Okay.
The idea of living with less.
Okay.
We touched on it briefly earlier, but I think it deserves further exploration.
Okay.
Can you expand on what that means
Yeah.
within the context of Stoicism
Yeah.
and how it can help us create a more fulfilling life?
So this concept is, it's beautifully articulated by Seneca, who said, learning to live with less will create space in your life for the things that truly matter to you. You know, it's not about deprivation,
Right.
but about recognizing that that true wealth lies not in material possessions,
Right.
but in inner richness
Mm-hmm.
and contentment.
It's about decluttering our lives,
Yes.
both physically and mentally,
Yeah.
to make space for what truly brings us joy and meaning.
Precisely. It's a powerful antidote to the consumerist culture
Right.
that constantly tells us we need more, more, more
Right.
to be happy.
Yeah.
Stoicism, it reminds us that true happiness comes from within,
Mm-hmm.
from aligning our lives with virtue
Yeah.
and finding contentment with what we have. Now, before we delve deeper into this idea of living with less,
Okay.
let's take a short break.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll explore how this concept can help us create a more fulfilling and meaningful life in today's world.
Welcome back. We're talking about this idea of living with less,
Right.
and how it's not about deprivation,
Yeah.
but about realizing that true wealth isn't, measured by our possessions,
Yeah.
but by our inner richness.
And what's fascinating is how this idea can actually be a source of strength and resilience.
Okay.
So think about it. By intentionally reducing our reliance on external things for happiness,
Okay.
we're less vulnerable to those things being taken away.
Right.
It's like that old saying, you can't lose what you don't cling to.
That's a great point. It's like we're building up this sort of immunity to loss
Yeah.
by choosing to detach from material possessions and external validation.
Exactly.
But for a lot of people, the idea of letting go of things can feel daunting.
Yeah.
Do you have any practical advice for incorporating this principle into our lives?
Well, one powerful practice we touched on earlier is negative visualization.
Right.
So instead of always picturing things going perfectly,
Okay, yeah.
we can also spend some time imagining potential losses.
Okay.
And this isn't about being pessimistic,
Right.
but about mentally preparing for the inevitable ups and downs of life.
So by imagining losing something we value,
Right.
we're not only appreciating it more in the present,
Yes.
but also becoming less attached to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that decreased attachment can actually bring a sense of freedom and peace.
Okay.
It frees up our mental energy to focus on what truly matters, our character,
Uh-huh.
our relationships, our contributions to the world.
It's like decluttering our minds
Yes.
as well as our physical spaces.
Exactly.
And that seems to tie into another key Stoic principle we discussed,
Yeah.
the dichotomy of control.
Absolutely. We can't control external events,
Right.
but we can control our reactions to them.
Yeah.
And that includes our reactions to potential loss.
Okay.
So living with less, it isn't just about minimizing our possessions. It's also about managing our desires and expectations.
So by focusing on what we can control, our efforts, our intentions, our attitudes,
Yeah.
we can find contentment, regardless of our circumstances.
You got it.
Okay.
And it's a powerful antidote to the constant pressure
Okay.
we often feel to acquire more, achieve more, be more.
Yeah.
Stoicism reminds us that that true happiness comes from within,
Right.
from aligning our lives with virtue and from finding joy in the simple things.
This deep dive into Stoicism has been so enlightening.
It has been a good one.
We've explored so much from the core principles of this ancient philosophy to its practical applications
Right.
in our modern lives. Any final thoughts for our listeners as they
Sure.
as they embark on their own Stoic journeys?
Remember that Stoicism is a lifelong practice.
Sure.
It's a journey of self-discovery and growth.
Right.
It's not about it's not about achieving some perfect state of stoic enlightenment,
Okay.
but about making small, consistent efforts to align your thoughts and actions with virtue.
Okay.
Be patient with yourself and embrace the process.
And remember that even small steps can lead to big changes. As we learned from Zeno's story,
Yeah.
even a shipwreck can be the catalyst for a profound personal transformation. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.